You got her?
Turn this way?
Your hand steady?
Y'all caught me looking a mess.
No, no, it's perfect. Okay, go ahead, tell us.
But this particular technique was a technique that I learned when I was in Switzerland. On my way to West Africa, I was very, very blessed to live in West Africa for about a year, twice. So when I was coming from Europe and I saw all these mounds built out, and I'm like, what is that? So they told me the technique, and they actually got it from our ancestors out of Africa. So we decided to do this technique here. So what other questions do you have for me about Linden?
What was Linden like when you grew up?
Linden was a very beautiful place. Everybody took care of their yard. There was a lot of home ownership. This was one of the areas that Black Americans were allowed to move to because of segregation. People don't think there was segregation in Ohio, but it really was. And so when they tore down an area on the west side called Flytown, this was the area that Black people were allowed to move in. Flytown is now Thurber Village. So if you ever go west in Neal area on campus, that area is now Thurber Village. And that's where the majority of the Black people who came from Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and West Virginia lived in that particular area. And they tore it all down, put the freeway in, put in Thurber Village, and we were allowed to move this way, to come into this area. So this was one of the first areas that was populated by Black Americans as well as the east side of Columbus, Ohio. It was very beautiful because, like I said, it was a lot of home ownership, not a lot of rental property. Everybody took care of their yard. There were flowers everywhere, beautiful blooming trees. There were a lot of fruit trees in this area also. I know our neighbor, Mr. Long, he had a cherry tree. We loved Mr. Long's cherry tree because it was so full and ripe, and the cherries would hang over just long enough for us as little children to reach. So we loved Mr. Long's cherry tree, and at that time when I grew up on 15th Avenue, which is just a few blocks down the street. My address was 1193 15th Avenue, so I even remember the address.
Is the house still there?
The house is still there. Same house. It is still there on 15th Avenue. So when I first came back from Arizona, I took my children on what I call my Black History tour of my neighborhood. And I was a little disturbed to see what had happened. I'm like, wow, what happened? You know, because like I said, I lived in Arizona, I lived in Africa, I've been all over the world. And I just knew that I needed to come back and do something. You know, as that saying goes, get up and do something for yourself. Stop asking others to do for you what you can do for yourself. And so my sisters and I are back in this area. All my family, except for one sister who's trying to move back to this area, live in the Linden area. All of us. My mother, my sisters, we all live in the Linden area. And I've had another sister who graduated from Linden McKinley also, and she was one who was a nurse at Ohio State.
Is your mom still here?
Yes, my mother is here. She is 80 years old, and as I said, she lives in the Linden area.
Thank you so much. I know you were
You're so
busy
welcome.
getting to work.
Yeah.